Hello students, this is Rudra here. Today I am going to go through a story from your treasure trove. The name of the story is Hearts and Hands, written by Owen Green. If you do not have your textbooks with you now, pause the video, get the textbook and a pencil in case you want to jot down something. Okay, so it's on page 68. The story starts on 69, but before that a few lines about William Sidney Porter, which is the actual name of Owen Green. Now William Sidney Porter was a prolific writer. He wrote several short stories and very few characters are there in his stories. He doesn't have too many characters playing about in his short stories, and the most important thing about his stories are their surprise endings. Now this is also known as the sting in the tail. Okay, suddenly there is a twist at the end. So this story is also similar to that. Plus this story highlights the theme of appearance and reality that I'll be coming to later on. This video is about only the text. The second video will contain all the details, other finer points about the story that will be in the second part. Okay, this is only about the text, so get your text ready and we'll start from page 68. Okay, so Hearts and Hands by Owen Green. At Denver, there was an influx of passengers into the coaches on the eastbound B&M Express. Now, Denver is the place. This is in the western part of the US. There was an influx of passengers. Now, at this particular station of Denver, the B&M Express had come in. It was eastbound, it was going towards the east. Influx of passengers means number of passengers getting in. You know, in a platform, what happens? When a train comes, a lot of passengers get in, a lot of passengers get out of the train. Here, basically, a large number of people got in. In one coach, there sat a very pretty young woman, dressed in elegant taste. Elegant taste, she's very sophisticated, she's a very stylish kind of a woman, and surrounded by all the luxurious comforts of an experienced traveler. Now, this suggests that this woman is an experienced traveler. That means she is regularly accustomed to traveling. Okay, so she is surrounded by, or she has by her hand or by her side, all the luxurious comforts, all the things that are essential for her comfort during this train journey. She has them all. Among the newcomers were two young men, one of handsome appearance, with a bold, frank countenance and manner. Now, two newcomers came in. Both of them are young men. Okay. Now, first one of handsome appearance. Handsome, he looks very nice and smart and dashing. Okay. Bold, frank countenance. Now, this word countenance means facial expression or the face or appearance, and this is one word which you will find used 2 or 3 times in the story. Be very careful about the spelling. Okay, bold, frank countenance, these are the things. So suppose this young man is asked to be described, so you will write things like the young man was of handsome appearance, he had a bold, frank countenance and manner. So just like that, he was well dressed also, and he's a person whom you feel like talking to. He's a person whom you feel like going up to and talking, that kind of inviting personality. The other one, a ruffled, glum-faced person. Glum-faced means is gloomy, dejected, that kind of person. Ruffled up means his hair is out of order, dress is out of order, like that. Heavily built, he is strongly built, muscular, and roughly dressed. Again, he has the opposite appearance of what the first young man had. Young man was very well dressed up, he was looking very handsome, but this second man is gloomy, he is very strong and muscular, and he's not well dressed. He's very roughly dressed, carelessly dressed, casually dressed. His hair is out of order, and he is very careless about his appearance. So if you are asked to converse, you will definitely converse with the first person. He looks very handsome, inviting and all. The two were handcuffed together. Now this is very important. How are they handcuffed? one hand of each of these person is attached with the hand of the other person. That means suppose the left hand of one person is handcuffed with the right hand of the other person. Okay, in this way they are handcuffed. As they pass down the aisle of the coach, aisle of the coach, what is the aisle? Aisle is that small passage in a train. Every one of you have gone on a train journey. You have seen on the left hand side there is a long bunk of seats for passengers to sit. There's a passage, and then on the right hand side again you have two small seats by the window. The middle part, the passage, that's the aisle. Okay. The only vacant seat offered was a reversed one facing the attractive young woman. Now, the only vacant seat that was offered, the only vacant seat that was available was the reversed one, that is the opposite one, facing the attractive young woman. Now, reversed one. Now, you will say where there were not other seats available. Of course, there were. But the thing is, they need two seats, double seat, so that both of them can sit down. Mind you, they are handcuffed, so they cannot sit separately. They have to sit together. So they need a double seat. And here, opposite to that attractive woman whom we have heard about or read about, opposite to that woman, there is a seat available, and they sit down there. Here, the linked couple seated themselves. So because there are two people and they are linked up by means of the handcuffs, they sat down. The young woman's glance fell upon them with a distant, swift disinterest. Now the young woman, she knew there was no one sitting opposite to her, and suddenly she saw two young men sitting down. And when she felt that two people sitting down, she just cast a glance. Now glance is just a look, just like this, a glance. Fell upon them with a distant, swift disinterest. She was casually, disinterestedly looking. She didn't have any interest who is sitting, who is not sitting, like that. Casually she cast a glance. But then there was an effect of this glance. Why? Then with a lovely smile brightening her countenance, again see her face lit up with a lovely smile. A smile lights up any face, whether it's a child, whether it's an adult. So here a lovely smile lit up her face, and tender pink tinging her rounded cheeks. Her rounded cheeks were slightly colored up with that pinkish kind of tinge, because there's something happening. What is happening? She recognizes one person out of the two to be her acquaintance. Oh, you have come. So there's a bit of a smile, a bit of pinkish tinge to her cheeks. And then what does she do? She held out a little grey gloved hand. Already it is mentioned she's a woman of elegant taste. She wears gloves. So the grey gloved hand, she extended her right hand. When she spoke, her voice full, sweet and deliberated. So when she spoke, how was her voice? Her voice was full. It was not stammering. It was not very low. It was a full voice. It was a sweet voice, and it was very, very deliberate, intentionally, directly speaking. Proclaimed, which is announced, that its owner was accustomed to speak and be heard. This suggested that the owner is accustomed to speaking and hearing. And that means she is a regular conversing person. She has a voice of her own. And when she speaks, she wants others to listen to her. And in fact, other people listen to her the way she speaks and all that. So she's not a very shy or stammering kind of a person. She clearly speaks out whatever she has to speak out. Well, Mr. Easton, if you will make me speak first. Now here we come to know the name of one of the persons. It's not the glum-faced man, it's the other one, the first one, the handsome person. His name is Mr. Easton. She refers to him as Mr. Easton and says, if you will make me speak first, I suppose I must. Now this is very improper on the part of the young man, because it's they who had come into the compartment. They were the ones who had first seen Miss Fairchild. Okay. Later on when they sat down, then Miss Fairchild saw them. So it was actually it should actually have been Mr. Easton who should have spoken first. That okay, oh Miss Fairchild, what are you doing here? Where are you going? Etc. etc. He should have been the one speaking first. But he did not do so. So here she hints at that and says, if you will make me speak first, you did not recognize me, you are making me speak first. I suppose I must. So if you, in spite of seeing me, you are not talking, then I will start the conversation. Don't you ever recognize old friends when you meet them in the West? You have met don't you recognize old friends when you meet them in the West? That is, you have met me, I am an old acquaintance of yours, you have met me in the West, you don't recognize me. The young man roused himself sharply at the sound of her voice. The young man was probably lost in his thoughts, and when he heard Miss Fairchild speaking, he just roused himself out of that. Seemed to struggle with a slight embarrassment. He was a bit embarrassed. Yes, I should have spoken to her first. So, kind of a bit of an embarrassment. He shook off that, which he threw off instantly. Threw off means he removed out this particular embarrassment that he was feeling, and then clasped her fingers with his left hand. With his left hand, what did he do? He clasped her fingers. The right hand, as it is told, she extended her grey gloved hand. Now, it's very non-courteous in the sense that we normally extend our right hand. Okay, if someone extends our right hand for a handshake, we extend our right hand. But here, he uses his left hand. And why? He gives an explanation to that. It's Miss Fairchild, he said with a smile. So he says, oh, yes, Miss Fairchild. I'll ask you to excuse the other hand. He says, please excuse the other hand. It's otherwise engaged just at present. At present, the right hand is engaged. It is attached. So here we come to know the actual, the arrangement of the handcuffs. Mr. Easton's right hand is handcuffed with the left hand of the glum-faced man. Okay. So Mr. Easton's right hand is handcuffed with the left hand of the glum-faced man. Okay, next page. He slightly raised his right hand, bound at the wrist by the shining bracelet, to the left one of his companion. So he raised his right hand, and the right hand was bound at the wrist. It was tied up at the wrist by the shining bracelet. Now you see, the word bracelet is actually an ornament. Here it is ironically or comically referred to as the handcuffs are referred to as bracelet. That's why you will see there is an inverted comma, right? You see that there is an inverted comma, the word bracelet. Now, one important mistake which many students make, they refer to the handcuff as bracelet. Do not do that. Until and unless absolutely necessary, do not use the word bracelet for handcuffs. You always use in your answer handcuffs. Okay. Extreme cases, if you have to use bracelet, then again you have to use it within inverted commas. Do not miss that out. Because if you do not write the inverted commas, then it means that this particular thing is referring to some kind of ornament, and your answer will be wrong. Okay, the glad look in the girl's eyes slowly changed to a bewildered horror. She was in horror, she's shocked. Okay, what is this? What has happened to my friend? And the first thing that comes to one's mind whenever one sees such a thing is, of course, some bad premonition. Something bad must have happened, something bad must be done by my friend, that is why he is in handcuffs. To a bewildered horror, she is puzzled, she is shocked. The glow faded from her cheeks. That glow, mind you, that pinkish tinge which came to her cheeks, that is gone. Her lips parted in a vague, relaxing distress. She is in discomfort. Distress means discomfort. She doesn't know. She is making some vague calculations in her mind. What has he done? Has he done some crime? Or is it some other reason? Why is he being taken away? What is the reason? Easton, with a little laugh, as if amused, was about to speak again. Easton just laughed out this particular episode, and he was about to offer some kind of false interpretation about the handcuffs. When the other, now the other means the glum-faced man. When the other forestalled him, forestalled means stopped or prevented. Who prevented him from speaking? The glum-faced man. He is the first time he is going to speak. So he stopped him. Before he could laugh, and before Mr. Easton laughed out, and before he could say something, the glum-faced man barged in. He prevented Mr. Easton from speaking and said, The glum-faced man had been watching the girl's countenance, see again countenance used, with veiled glances from his keen-shrewd eyes. Now what is keen-shrewd eyes? Very piercing eyes, just like a police officer, a CID inspector. He can look clear, an adult, an elder, who can look at the child or a person, a principal, a teacher, can see and say, oh, this boy is doing this is going on in his mind. You can see clearly. So that kind of eyes, keen-shrewd eyes, this glum-faced man has, and he was observing Miss Fairchild's countenance, her face. What was the changes? Now, you have seen so far there are two changes in Miss Fairchild. First, when she saw Mr. Easton, she was happy, there's a smile on her face, the pinkish tinge on her cheeks. And then when she saw the handcuffs, then a transformation, a change. So he had been watching all this with veiled glances. Now veil, you know, the Muslim women wear that burqa, it's a veil which covers their faces. It's a curtain-like thing. So here, veiled is referred to the glance. The glance is not direct. If he had been looking directly at Miss Fairchild, then it would have been looked. But here he is not looking. What is he doing? He is looking with glances. Glances are very short looks. How? Just like suppose suppose the glum-faced man and I am looking at Miss Fairchild, then I will be looking like this. So just one glance, just for a few seconds, and then I am looking somewhere else. So these are glances. With veiled glances, he was looking at Miss Fairchild. You will excuse me for speaking, Miss. So see, he is very polite and very courteous. In the beginning, he asks sorry. He says, excuse me please, because I am talking in between you two. Actually, Miss Fairchild and Mr. Easton were talking. He was nowhere in the picture. He is barging in. So he says, please excuse me for speaking in. But you see, but I see you are acquainted with the marshal. Acquainted means know very well. Okay, acquainted means know very well. You are acquainted with the marshal here. This marshal person. You know him very well. So automatically what he does is with one sentence, he gives the designation of the persons. That is, Mr. Easton is the marshal, I am the criminal. The glum-faced man presents himself as the criminal and Mr. Easton is the marshal. He says, you are acquainted, you are talking with the marshal here, Mr. Easton. Okay. If you will ask him to speak a word for me, when we get to the pen, he will do it. Now, speak a word for me means speak some good words on my behalf. Say like this person is known to me, he's an acquaintance of mine, he's a far off relative of mine, something like this. At the pen, now pen is not that what you write to it, it's not that. Your pen is colloquially used for prison. When we get to the prison, if he will say a few words on my behalf, and that he will do only if you tell him. Okay. Now what will be the result if he does that? It will make things easier for me there. My life will be a little bit easier there. That means the prison authorities will be less severe to me in jail or in prison if he puts in this reference that okay, he is a known friend of mine, he is a known acquaintance, he is a known relative, he is somewhat distant relative of mine, something like this. He is taking me to Leavenworth prison. That is also mentioned. Be careful about the spelling of Leavenworth. It's where this prisoner is going. It is 7 years for counterfeiting. Again, keep in mind the spelling counterfeiting, because again it is something which is often mistaken. Counterfeiting means cheating. Cheating in any kind. Like you copy someone's signature, you cheat someone of money, something like this. He has done. What he has done actually is not mentioned. It's counterfeiting. 7 years term for that. Oh, said the girl with a deep breath and returning color. Oh, etc. So she now relaxes. Okay, so this is the reason. So that is what you are doing out here. A marshal. He says, oh, so you are a marshal now. Okay. My dear Miss Fairchild, said Easton calmly. I had to do something. He said, Miss Easton said, Miss Fairchild, see, I had to do something. I am a grown-up person. I need to do something for a livelihood. So I had to do a job. Money has a way of taking wings unto itself. And you know, it takes money to keep step with the crowd in Washington. Washington is the place, now we understand, is the place where Mr. Fairchild, Miss Fairchild and Mr. Easton had met, or they actually belong to Washington. Now, in all places, you need money to survive. Okay, whether it is east, west, north, south, anywhere, you need money. And money has a way of taking wings. It's like a bird, it just flies out. Okay, money is given to you as pocket money, and suppose, and within a week it's gone. Okay, Okay, you spend it here and there, it's gone. Without your realizing, the money is over. So similarly also with adults, they have a lot of expenses. So what happens is, money is gone. So it is like a bird compared to a bird which takes wings and flies away. Okay. I saw this opening in the west, and well, a marshalship isn't quite as high a position as that of an ambassador, but so he says, look, I saw this opening in the west. Opening means job opening. In the west, I saw this job opening of a marshal. I said, okay, fine, rather than doing nothing, let me do at least something. And although it is not sorry, as high a position as that of an ambassador. Now, what is an ambassador? Ambassador is a high-ranking official, much higher in rank than a marshal. Okay. So he says, I couldn't get that kind of a job, but still, okay, I got something. Rather than being unemployed, I'm at least being a marshal, earning some kind of money. So I took this position. The ambassador said the girl warmly, doesn't call anymore. He says, this girl now clarifies something. She says, this ambassador doesn't call anyone. Now, ambassador is referring to a person who belonged to that group of Mr. Easton and Miss Fairchild. Okay, he belonged to that group. Then he got the job of an ambassador. So, Mr. Easton is referring to that person, saying that I have not got a high position like that person who has become an ambassador. And Miss Fairchild says, the ambassador doesn't call anymore. That means he is a very ungrateful kind of a person. He is a very selfish kind of a person who has forgotten his old friends. He doesn't remember them anymore. Now that he has risen high in society, he has forgotten his old friend. Let them be. They are very low graded. I won't mix with them. I am now in high society. That kind of person. He needn't ever have done so. Now, needn't ever have done so has a different implication. The meaning of this is, she seems to say that he is a person with whom I have no attachment. So, indirectly, Miss Fairchild makes it clear that she doesn't have anything to do with this particular person, this particular ambassador person. Okay, I have no relations with him. I don't have any connections with him. I don't have any feelings for him. All this is cleared out here in this line. You ought to know that, and you definitely should be knowing that. You were in that friend circle. You knew what our relations were. You should know very well. That is what she clarifies. So now you are one of these dashing Western heroes. You ride and shoot and go into all kind of dangers. That's different from the Washington life. The Washington life was very calm and quiet and relaxing life. But the life which he is leading now, that of a marshal, it's of a very adventurous one. You are riding horses and you are shooting at criminals, you are going into all kind of dangers, you are arresting people. All these things you are being done. The girl's eyes fascinated and went back, whitening a little, to rest upon the glittering handcuffs. Again, glittering handcuffs, shining, they are made of steel, so very, very shiny handcuffs. So she was very fascinated, and as she was speaking, suddenly her eyes again went to those handcuffs, and again the other man, that is the glum-faced man, he spoke again, seeing her looking at the handcuffs. Don't you worry about them, miss, said the other man. All marshals handcuffs themselves to their prisoners to keep them from getting away. He says, no ma'am, don't worry. All marshals do this duty. Okay, to be on the safer side that the convicts do not escape, they handcuff their criminals with themselves. So this is a very regular duty with any marshal. Mr. Easton knows his business. He is a very responsible kind of marshal. He knows his duty. He is doing his duty. So don't worry. Will we see you again in Washington? Asked the girl. Not soon, I think, said Easton. My butterfly days are over, I fear. He says, no, sorry, I cannot. I don't think I'll be back in Washington very soon. My butterfly days are over. Now, butterfly is a very carefree kind of an insect. Okay, this can be compared with the teenage or the childhood days when one is without responsibilities, one is without any kind of pressure or duties and obligations. But compare the butterfly with the bee. Now, bee is a very responsible creature. Why? It has the duty of making up that beehive, supplying that nectar, honey and all. So, it's a very responsible creature. So, we can say maybe that Mr. Easton was the earlier stage when he was in his teenage and youth. He was in the butterfly stages. That stage is over. Now he is probably gone into a more responsible kind of a character like a bee. I love the West, said the girl irrelevantly. Now what is the meaning of the word irrelevantly? Means out of context. Suppose we are discussing about food and I suddenly go and start talking about flowers. So it is out of context. Similarly here, nothing is said about the east or west. Nothing is being said whether the east is better or the west is better. But here, out of context, she says, I love the west. Her eyes were shining softly. She looked away out of the car window. That means this suggests that she is becoming philosophical. She is speaking philosophically now. And then again one more line is there. She began to speak truly and simply without the gloss of style and manner. Now here she doesn't have all that glossy style and manner and all that. That is all gone. She is now simply plainly speaking like a simple girl. Mama and I spent the summer in Denver. She went home a week ago because father was slightly ill. Now here we can see that she's a kind of a little bit of a greedy, selfish kind of a person. Her father is ill. Mother has gone back 1 week ago. She did not go. She completed her holiday 1 week later. Now she is going. That means for her, holidays is more important than her father's health. Okay, so she should have actually gone, but she is not gone there. Anyway, I could live and be happy in the West. Again, this is an indirect hint to Mr. Easton that if you want, I am ready to stay with you here in the West. I am quite adaptable to this particular place. I think the air here agrees with me. Air agrees with me means I can adjust to this kind of atmosphere and environment. Money isn't everything. Now she indirectly pokes him or makes fun of him, saying that money isn't everything. It's just say money isn't everything. But people always misunderstand things and remain stupid. It is an indirect reference to Mr. Easton that you are running after money. Because you are running after money from the east, you have come here to the west. Why? For money. But there is something above money. That is relations. Do you have anyone here who loves you and cares for you? She indirectly asked Mr. Easton. No, there is no one here. But in the east, there is me. Okay. So, say Mr. Marshal, growled the glum-faced man. Now suddenly, the glum-faced man comes into the picture. What does he say? Say, Mr. Marshal, this isn't quite fair. He says, what is this? This is not fair. I'm needing a drink and haven't had a smoke all day. He says, I'm needing a drink. I need to smoke. I need to drink. Haven't you talked long enough? He says, how long will you talk? He appears to be very disturbed. This is also actually a pretense. Why? I'll tell you. Take me to the smoker now, won't you? I'm half dead for a pipe. He says, what is this? Take me to the smoker. Now, smoker is a special chamber where people go in and smoke. The special place for people to drink, the bar and all. So, this is not everywhere that anyone can sit down and have a smoke or a drink. Now, he appears intentionally to be irritated. Why? He sees Miss Fairchild is getting very emotional. So, before they can get very emotionally attached to one another, he just changes the scenario and makes Mr. Easton leave. Okay, so that's why he said this. The bound travelers rose to their feet. Easton, with the same slow smile on his face, with a gentle smile, Mr. Easton got up. He said, I cannot deny a petition for tobacco. Petition means a request. I cannot deny a request for tobacco. What can I do? He said lightly. It's the one friend of the unfortunate. He says, these unfortunate people, these criminals, they have only these two requests, either to smoke or to drink. They have nothing else. So I cannot deny them actually these things. Goodbye, Miss Fairchild. Duty calls, he says, Miss Fairchild, goodbye. Duty calls. I have to do my duty. I have to go. Goodbye. He held out his hand for a farewell and with his left hand he kind of bade farewell. It's too bad you're not going east, she said, reclothing herself with manner and style. Again that artificiality is coming in and she said, okay, you are not going east. But you must go on to Leavenworth, I suppose. Yes, said Mr. Easton, I must go to Leavenworth. He says, okay, you are going to Leavenworth? He says, yes, what can I do? I have to do my duty, I have to go to Leavenworth. The two men settled down the aisle into the smoker. Settled down the aisle means they did not walk side by side like this. Okay, there's not enough space to walk like that. So what they did is they walked like this. Okay, side by side. Okay, side by side in this way. Sideways they walked. The two passengers in a seat nearby had heard most of the conversation. Now we move on to the different part. Here there are two other people sitting. Suppose this is the aisle. The left side, Mr. Fairchild, Miss Fairchild, Mr. Easton, and the glum-faced man was sitting. On the other side, there were two passengers. Now these two people are talking. They were so long hearing all that was being said. And what did they say? Most of the conversation said one of them. Okay, for explanation's sake, I'll refer to one as A. Okay, this first person, Mr. A, what does he say? That Marshall's a good sort of chap. Some of these Western fellows are all right. Now here comes the twist. Suppose this Mr. A, he says that the Marshal is a good man, he has a good heart, he's a very kind and compassionate kind of a person. Whom is he referring to? He's not referring to Mr. Easton, he's referring to the glum-faced man. Okay, he's referring to the glum-faced man. He says, some of these Western fellows, they have nice good heart. Now, why does he say this? I'll come to that at the end. Let me go to the other person. What did that person say? Pretty young to hold an office like that, isn't he? Asks the other. Now, the other person, Mr. B, to whom he's speaking. Mr. A spoke this to Mr. B. Now, Mr. B is saying that pretty young to hold an office like that. This second person refers to Mr. Easton as the Marshal. He says, yes, Mr. Easton, he's a young man. And in spite of being a young man and so young age, he has become a Marshal. Then the first person, that Mr. A who spoke first, he corrects him and says, young, exclaimed the first speaker. Why? Oh, didn't you catch on? Say, did you ever know an officer to handcuff a prisoner to the right hand? So here he corrects him and says, oh, what happened? You didn't catch it. You didn't get that detailing. That Mr. Easton is the criminal and this other one, the glum-faced man, he is actually the Marshal. Don't you know? And what is the logic? The logic he gives, and he says, Marshals always handcuff their prisoners to their right hand and they always handcuff themselves to their left hand. Now why is it so? See, we all have two hands. Okay, one of it is our active hand with which we do most of our job, and the other one is kind of inactive. Here, in most cases, most of us are right-handed. So by that logic, the right hand of the criminal is locked up with the left hand of the Marshal. That means the active hand of the active hand of the criminal is locked up or handcuffed with the inactive hand of the Marshal. So the Marshal's active hand is free. If he wants, he can give him a blow to the criminal. He can take out his gun and shoot him if he wants, if he tries to be mischievous. But on the other hand, the convict cannot do anything. The criminal cannot do anything. His active hand is locked. Understood? So by that logic, if we go back to the story, the right hand of Mr. Easton is locked, is handcuffed with the left hand of the glum-faced man. That means by that logic, the glum-faced man is the Marshal, Mr. Easton is the criminal convict who is being taken to live and birth for 7 years of prison. Now the important question arises, if that is the case, for the whole story, why did that glum-faced man refer to himself as the convict and Mr. Easton as the Marshal? Herein is the reason why that man said, these Western people, some of these Western Marshals are good at heart and all. That is why he said that. Why did he say this? Because in spite of being the Marshal, he presented himself as a criminal. Now why? There are two reasons for it. Number one, he saw that Mr. Easton and Miss Fairchild, they are both acquaintances of one another. They know one another very well. And before a lady, it's better not to kind of degrade him or insult him by saying, look, your friend is a criminal, he's going to prison, he's going to 7 years for counterfeiting. It's no use, number one. And number two, one more important thing is that Miss Fairchild, she may be an experienced traveler, but she is not accustomed to the ways of the world. She doesn't know the arrangement as to whose hand is handcuffed to whom, the Marshal's left hand is handcuffed, the convict's right hand is handcuffed. This specification she doesn't know. So because she doesn't know, it is easy to fool her. So to save the prestige of Mr. Easton before Miss Fairchild for a few hours, the glum-faced man presents himself as the criminal. Okay, he presents himself as the criminal and he says, he's the Marshal, he's going to take me to live and birth and all. Because he realizes by doing this, he is kind of saving Mr. Easton's prestige. It won't matter to him because he already has the criminal in his hand, he is handcuffed, he won't run away and anything. So for a few moments, if he just changes the scenario and presents himself as the criminal, it won't do any harm. So that's exactly why he does that. And that's all for this text as far as Horse and Hands is concerned. I'll be meeting you in the next part of this chapter's discussion part, second video that is of this chapter, wherein I'll be giving you some finer points and details about this chapter. Okay, so of course do like and share this video as much as you can among your friends, so that they may also be benefited during these times, and of course subscribe to my channel.